yesterday we got the brand new American Pope. And as a result, we did not spend as much time breaking down Joe Biden's disastrous appearance on The View. And I think Democrats actually got a break by the fact that the Pope announcement happened while Biden was doing an interview, because it was an unmitigated disaster. And for those of you out there who say, okay, we know that they covered up. We know that Biden was never able to be president. We know that the media was willing to carry water for him. Why do you keep talking about it? I think it's hugely important to hold the media accountable, because it also delegitimizes any of their reporting now about Donald Trump and whether or not he's fit to be in office. And you could say, well, we know he's fit. Yes, but you have to persuade. Politics is the art of persuasion. And if you can delegitimize the arguments of people who are dishonest over time, that's how you win a landslide in all 50 states, which is what Trump did in 2024 and what we hope will continue in 2026 and going forward in 2028. So this matters for that reason. And we did not play this, but there seems to be a series of revelations that must be particularly devastating to Joe Biden, which we told you would happen. As soon as his political career was over, the truth would finally be told. And it appears, maybe in this new book that's coming out from Alex Thompson and from Jake Tapper, whatever you think of them as the source, it appears that this is going to be uniquely devastating, not just to Joe Biden, but to the Democrat Party and their legacy media allies who continued to argue, hey, he's able to do this job. And so they're trying to get in front of this. This is my theory, Buck. They're trying to get out in front of this and pre-buy it a bit.
A slight adjustment to that, Clay. It wasn't that he was okay to do the job. It's that he was the best he had ever been.
Mm-hmm.
It's that he was sharp as a tack.
That's right.
It's that if you didn't see this the way they did, you were the propagandist. You were the person that was living in a fantasy. Joe Biden could challenge somebody to a cognitive test and a push-up contest, anybody in the room, and he was going to win. That was the tone for 4 years. I just want to add, it wasn't, okay, guys, he's a little enfeebled, but we still think that when push comes to shove, he can make the wise judgment from the wheelchair, so to speak, if he has to. It was, he's awesome.
Yes.
He's the best version he's ever been. Sorry, I think that's important.
I think that's true. I mean, it wasn't even just that he could do the job. To your point, for the Joe Scarboroughs of the world and many of MSNBC's hosts, it was Biden's not just doing the job; he's great at it, and he's the best version of himself.
Sharp as a tack.
Yes,
I think the phrase "sharp as a tack" will never be the same after the Biden era.
No doubt. Okay, so he was asked about this, and do you believe this? By the way, that the Biden people must know that this is going to be devastating. Because otherwise, why are they deciding to do interviews? I guess another argument could be, well, this is just the Biden money train, and they're trying to chug along and hoover up as much cash as they possibly can. But I don't even think that's working anymore, because we know Hunter's basically bankrupt. I think this is about trying to pre-butt the arguments that are soon going to be impossible to ignore. Because, even CNN, when Jake Tapper writes the book, they're going to treat it like, it's The Great Gatsby that's just been released for the first time.
I think it's also, it's damage assessment, and it's who is going to, since they have had this blow up within the Democrat Party, which this last election, the whole Biden-Kamala fiasco clearly was, Clay, I think that part of this also is an internal Democrat fight for who's going to be the leadership. I don't just mean the candidate. I mean, who are going to be the people calling the shots for the Democrats going forward? Because right now, it's an open field that doesn't really exist. It's like they're emerging from the ruins of their own integrity, which is gone.
Okay, let's go ahead and let's play. This was Alyssa Farah Griffin, who used to work in the Trump White House, specifically referencing the book and asking Biden to defend himself. I'm not sure how long this cut is exactly, But guys, do we have the part where Jill Biden just takes over because Joe can't answer the question and has to answer it for him? Okay, so that's the important pivot here. Biden tries to argue, oh, I'm fit as a fiddle. I'm great at being president. That's totally untrue. Can't even make the argument himself. And Jill Biden has to step in and try and make the argument for him. Listen.
What is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that, number one. Number two, think of what we're left with. We're left with a circumstance where we had an insurrection when I started, not since the Civil War. We had a circumstance where we were in a position that the pandemic, because of the incompetence of the last outfit, end up over 1 million people dying. And we're also in a situation where we found ourselves unable to deal with a lot of just basic issues, and which I won't go into in the interest of time. And so we went to work, and we got it done. And one of the things that
and Alyssa, one of the things I think is that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us. And they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day.
So she goes on and tries to make the argument. I saw Joe Biden work so hard and everything else. I just think this is, again, a lot of this went under the radar, fortunately for Democrats, because the Pope got announced right as Biden was trying to go on The View. I don't understand, although it is sad, how often and why he isn't called on it. He always tries to get out of trying to answer questions now by saying he doesn't have enough time. Have you noticed this? The only reason you're on that program is to have as much time to make the case as you would like. I understand sometimes we have to cut people off. Sometimes we have to cut ourselves off because we're going to commercial break. But Joe Biden is not going to commercial break every time. His brain just trails off and he can't continue. And then other people around him have to kind of pick up the pieces, which is what you saw. Jill talked for over a minute. Whatever you think about her, she was 10,000 times as effective of a communicator in that answer as Biden himself was.
Well, I also think that a big part of what we see going on here is that there are Democrats who realize, and when I say Democrats, I mean elected office, but mostly the media wing of the DNC, or just the media, the non-conservative news media, that they realize they've humiliated their own voters. They've humiliated their own base. And you and I talk about this sometimes, right? There are a lot, journalists can get away with a lot, but they can lie, they can be totally dishonest on a whole range of things. But as long as they are making the people at home watching MSNBC or reading the Washington Post feel like they're smarter and they're like making fun of the Republicans no matter what, they can basically get away with it. When they run into real problems is when they tell their audience to go along with something, they do, and they're made to look like idiots, and they lose. Right? If Kamala had won, let me tell you, none of these people would have cared about all these Biden stories at all. The problem that they're dealing with now is they said, hey, guys, go along with this lie that Joe Biden's fine and look like dumbasses who can't tell, anything from anything. And then they had to say, oops, sorry, go behind Kamala or, get behind Kamala. She's going to be the one who wins this. And then it was, oops, sorry, Trump actually defeated us, right? So they have disappointed and humiliated their own base by pushing the lie. And so I think part of this, Clay, is damage control within their tribe, so to speak. This is why Biden's going out there and these books are coming out, and they've got to make the Democrat audience feel like, hey, there's some excuse, there's some narrative here for what happened that isn't, we have no ethics and we made you look like idiots and we were wrong about everything, because that's actually what happened.
Would it not help them if Biden just vanished, though? Like, if you were trying to clean up the mess on aisle Biden, isn't the best way to clean up the mess on aisle Biden just to have Biden vanish?
This is the end of it right now. To your point about the getting ahead of some of the stuff, they know that the this is really all within their own. This is like an intramural fight, right? This is within they already lost. Trump crushed them. Republicans are in charge. Trump and his team are all focused on the doing stuff in governing the country and, making the economy hum, all these things, securing the border. Democrats are in the shadows. They're in the backbench. They're up in the bleachers trying to figure out, okay, so who's calling the shots now and what the heck just happened? They're still in that phase. I know it's May, so it's been a few months, but I think that they're in the, military, right? You'd call it a hot wash after you go outside the wire. They're still figuring out what the heck happened, and that's why they need to present this stuff in a way that their own side can psychologically get past what a total disaster the last 12 months were. I mean, the last 12 months of the Democrat Party was just an outright disaster. Not just losing the election, it's how they lost the election, who they lost the election to, what promises were made to them, to the Democrat voter.
I think this is not going to go away. And a part of me thinks that Biden cares about his legacy. Jill certainly cares about Biden's legacy. What they should do is just have him vanish. Most presidents who choose not to run again or who are in a position where they were term limited out, which effectively Biden was in some ways, kind of vanish. I mean, when do you ever see George W. Bush? George W. Bush didn't even show up at the White House. Now, I know he doesn't have a great relationship with Trump, but they have unveiled a new Barbara Bush stamp. Melania did yesterday. Looks fabulous, by the way. George W. Bush and Laura Bush wouldn't go to the White House.
Clay, I think this is the last gasp of Bidenism on the public stage, period. I don't think this is about him trying to get more money, but that's not happening. He has nothing left to sell. He sold his office and his soul. It's all over, right? There's nothing left. So this is the last of it, and I think it's just for him trying to set the legacy in the least damaging light possible of what his presidency was. And I know this is a little intense, and it maybe sounds like a little mean-spirited even, but I just think it's true, and I think that the truth, unfortunately, in this case, is mean-spirited. He had brain issues. They lied about it. They put the country in peril. They sold their dignity and their integrity to try to defeat Donald Trump, and they lost. And now they're dealing with the emotional and psychological devastation as a party that they brought on themselves. They deserve this.
Yeah, and don't mistake this either. They're still trying to argue they would have won the race. I mean, he said it directly on The View. This is the only way I think the Biden team can justify anything. We told you that eventually it's going to turn into a knife fight over who's to blame. They're trying to say basically Kamala lost, that Biden would have won, but that the party was not allied behind him. We told you this would happen too, right? If he steps down and she wins, hero. If he steps down and she loses, well, it's her fault.
Of course. But also, Clay, think about what the alternative is. The alternative would be that Donald Trump, who they said needed to be locked up in a cell and tried to do so, okay? They raided Mar-a-Lago. They brought 4 criminal indictments. They had Letitia James running nonsense civil cases against him. They threw the kitchen sink at Trump. And not only did he effectively defeat Biden with a debate, he defeated their next in line.
Yes.
It was a 1-2 punch. Think about what that looks like. The president and vice president are supposed to be the 2 best shots you got to run the country, right? It's supposed to be really, generally speaking. I mean, you could argue about the vice president thing. Trump beat them both in the same election cycle. So the only way to have any sense of the Democrat Party is not a total joke right now is to say, okay, we made a mistake about Biden. We should have kept him in. Otherwise, it's Trump could have run the table and beaten anybody we threw against him, which I think is probably, which is true.
That's what's happening in 27. We're giving you a 2-year preview on their talking points. When Trump can't run again, they're going to argue, hey, it's not about us being bad. It's that Trump is not Hitler anymore. He's the greatest political candidate Republican Party will ever have in any of our lifetimes. You think I'm crazy? That's going to be the argument they start making in 27. Not spring without buckets of rain coming down one part of the country or another. We had big storms yesterday, knocked out the 10-year-olds soccer match. Clean Gutter can clear the way for you for a carefree summer, whether you're tired of unclogging your gutters, don't even know what they look like, don't want to get on that ladder. Right now, save up to 30% off at leaffilter.com/Clay and Buck. Gutter clogs, not just a nuisance. They can cause extensive water damage too. Let Leaf Filter's trusted pros help protect your home from flooding, foundation issues, and more. They'll clean out, realign, seal your gutters before installing Leaf Filter's award-winning patented technology. The #1 gutter protection system. Schedule your free inspection. Get up to 30% off your entire purchase at leaffilter.com/Clay and Buck. That's LEAF filter.com/Clay and Buck. See the representative for warranty details.